Well, let's get started. Welcome, everybody. You're at Visionality's Building Forward. My name is Emily Barony. I'm the CEO of Visionality, and I'm so excited to introduce our colleague, Armando Zumaya, who's going to be our guest star today at Building Forward. We're going to talk about Latinx empowerment in fundraising. So y'all know the drill. We tackle a really big topic in 25 minutes, so I'm going to set my timer for 25 minutes. Participate. We have all the answers within us. If something that we're talking about resonates with you, put it in the chat. If you have some lived experience about what we're talking about or a challenge you want to workshop with us, we have the expert in the room, y'all. Use that raise your hand feature. We're going to do Q&A at the end, certainly, but like participate. We're all a community here, so use that chat feature. Armando. What is the state of Latinx people in fundraising? Talk to me about it.
Well, thank you, first of all, for Visionality for hosting this. This is a big issue in the Central Coast because of the population, the demographics. We don't have to go into it. Racism and implicit bias are knee deep there. So the state of Latinos and nonprofits and fundraising is pretty abysmal. In philanthropy, you name it, the data is pretty damning. Hey, there's Pavel. Pavel works with me. Hey, Pavel. So what we're doing is Latinos are ignored in philanthropy. Okay, even when people talk about racial justice, look at a panel. There'll be no Latino on it. I guarantee you. They talk about Black and brown racism in philanthropy. There'll be no Latino on it. It's just we're ignored. We're the largest racial minority, 20% of the population, and the most prosperous too. This is another thing people don't even think about. It's a $2.7 trillion economy inside the U.S. The seventh largest economy on the planet are Latinos, right? There's more. You can find Latino billionaires and multimillionaires all over the state of California, but nobody knows about them because philanthropy looks past us. They see our skin, they see our last names, and we're ignored. So we're under 3% of board members in California. Okay, you can go to hospitals in Oxnard, and I challenge you, and look at boards, Oxnard, and there's no Latinos on the board. Okay, you can look at nonprofits leadership all around the country, and we're 1.8% of foundation giving. 1.8% of foundation giving. There was just a report released by funders in racial justice that's called Mismatched. Look it up. And it basically says, hey, everyone's saying racial justice, the foundation world, but funding, not really. Especially Latinos, we're not considered part of the racial justice discussion. Okay, so we're not really in it. Somehow we don't have racism against us. And at the same time, that's what we founded Somos el Poder, our first Latinx fundraising institute, to have Latinos also play baseball and be in the funding game, because funding isn't fair. Funding is brutally competitive. You can't sit at your office in Oxnard and go, hey, we don't have any money. You got to get to the MacArthur Foundation. You got to get to the Amundsen Foundation and play hardball and get those relationships started. So overwhelmingly, philanthropy sees us as victims. Nonprofits don't see us. And we're ignored overwhelmingly. I'll tell you a story. We just started La Vanguardia, which is the first certificate program in Latinx fundraising. Applications closed Friday. We have a phenomenal group of 29, 30 in the cohort to learn Latinx fundraising. The reason we started this is because this old man, I don't know why people know of me and they call me every year. I get 6 or 7 phone calls. It's the same phone call. The phone call is a young Latina who's an associate director of development, assistant director of development. She's been there for 5 years, 6 years, and her white boss leaves. She does her job for 6 months till they hire another white woman over her. Push repeat. She can never get an interview. She can never get promoted. And because they look past her, they say, oh, that's, Marisa. Yeah, Marisa's nice. But in their brain, they're like, that's not a development officer. So this program is designed to give her the mad skills to say, I'm certified. and I can do major gifts, you know. And so that's a litmus test of how we are seen in nonprofits. And so our organization will not tolerate that anymore.
I love it. I love it so much. And I mean, is this the current manifestation of philanthropy being built on white supremacy and colonialism and a white savior complex? Like, is this like, that's what we're seeing, right? Like, this is the reality of the history, the foundation of fundraising and philanthropy and nonprofits.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's a mix of things. There is racism in it, straight up. The first funder I talked to was an African American person, a program officer, who laughed when I told him about Latinx philanthropy, who told me a bunch of nonsense unrelated to data, and I had to explain to him, "Are you a fundraiser? No. So what are you talking about fundraising? You know, don't ask me about accounting because I'm not an accountant. I don't know diddly about that." You have to challenge people because there's a whole bunch of people out there talking about Latinos and philanthropy, Latino, Hispanics, philanthropy, whatever, fundraising, who aren't in that profession, who don't know what they're talking about. I'm not going to ask Emily how to fix my car because she's probably not a mechanic, but everyone's expounding out there, and ask them, have you ever done fundraising with Latinos? And the people on my board sure as hell have. I have. So we know what we're talking about from experience. But that you'll see foundation presidents talk about the issue and program officers, tons of them, with no experience on the subject. So there's a lot of ignorance. There's tons of implicit bias, tons of it. And then on top of that, in the funding, see, I don't call foundations philanthropy, they're part of philanthropy. Mm-hmm. This is something I really take to task with people out there talking like Edgar Villanueva, other people, philanthropy so white. That's not philanthropy, man. That's 18% of philanthropy, okay? Real philanthropy is individuals. The real philanthropist we should be aiming at isn't the Ford Foundation. It's the Guatemateca here in Oakland on the street who's giving her women's shelter $25 a month. And that's a huge gift for her. And there's 59 million of her, okay? All right, so there's 20% of the population isn't giving because fundraising ignores us. Okay? Well, I'll give you the best example I have. Go ahead.
No, is tithing in church recorded anywhere as donations or philanthropy?
That Latinos simply aren't asked. They're not engaged in the same way as philanthropy is in other places. The way we engage white people, we don't ask them. So the two examples I can hit on that are very solid, one's personal, is St. Jude Children's Hospital. So if you're like me, I don't live in Oakland, I live near Oakland. I want to get chicharrones. I don't know if you guys call them pork rinds, not the same. If I want to go get chicharrones, I got to go to this big mega store called Cardenas Markets in Oakland. Right, it's a 10-minute drive. But I'll go to my mailbox and there'll be a big, beautiful color postcard from St. Jude. And because they see my name, there's a cute woman on it, right? So I'll turn on the radio to listen to Ana Gabriel sing, and there'll be a radiothon or a pitch in Spanish on St. Jude. I'll go to Cardenas, find what I want, probably pick up some stuff I shouldn't eat. And then on the PA, it's like, oi, este día, you know, we're doing St. Jude Children's Hospital, you know, help the sick children. And people will be giving $5 at the counter. So I asked the guy, the market guy, and this is Fruitvale. This is the high poverty area, okay? High. How much did you make for St. Jude in a month? This guy very calmly tells me, well, $220,000. So I'm like, at Fruitvale Market, 1 month, 220. And so St. Jude raises hundreds of millions from Spanish-speaking Latinos every year because they frickin' invest in fundraising in us. Does the Diabetes Association do this? #1 killer of Latinos? Nope. Okay. Does all these other institutions don't do that because they think, oh, those people are poor, they're victims. But we also give when we're properly asked. So the number one donor I had when I worked at the Mexican Museum, who gave me $1 million, okay, in a check, not a pledge. He wrote a $1.1 million gift. Mexican American, family grew up in Oxnard, strawberry pickers. Okay, this guy, he went to a major California university that nobody, and they have him on the annual fund, asking for $100. Right. So I asked some, folks down there, Pavel, about this. And they're like, well, I don't know, he doesn't kind of fit our algorithm. So there's a white researcher looking at him going, oh, look at that cute little company. No, it's not a major gifts prospect. They still haven't engaged him in major philanthropy, which is dazzling to me. But he's worth, I Googled him, he's worth over $500 million. So, what do you think about those two things?
Well, and when we were prepping for this, we talked about this difference between grant funding and foundations versus major gifts versus collective philanthropy, sort of let's call them minor gifts, small, repetitive, individual gifts. And so many organizations are myopically focused on foundations and grants, and they don't want to do individual giving. And then if they do individual giving, they are so focused, where's my $1 million gift? I've got to get my $1 million gift. And I would way rather build a cohort of $5 and $10 and $20 a month monthly giving. Like, that's how you can start to build strength and resilience in an organization, because you're not waiting for that big fish to come. You just have like little nibbles that consistently roll in. So tell us a little bit about that.
There's tremendous ignorance of fundraising and the nonprofit leadership in this country. And I said it out loud, executive directors, boards of directors. The vast amount of them are ignorant of fundraising, but want to judge it. So the deep investment, including Latinx focused organizations, I can tell you of the thousands of Latinx organizations and focused organizations, maybe one has a real individual major giving program. And that's staggering, They are foundation dependent, and there is this colonial model of, we're going to give them grants, we're going to live on our grants. And so you have these little tiny Latinx organizations all over the country. Every little town has one, and they survive barely on the minimum grants, and that's about it. And they don't do much. And so our institute, Somos Apoder, is hoping to teach them major giving, teach them direct marketing, teach them small business fundraising, all kinds of different methodologies. But the major thing that you're talking about is, that works. There are examples in the California, around the country, of Latino organizations asking everyone, give me $10 a month. And they do it. And there's a great one here in Oakland called MUA, Mujeres Unidas y Activas, who does, I'm a donor. And they do phenomenal stewardship. You get these beautiful homemade cards thanking you. Somebody wrote in it. And and they have broad-based flat giving. That's powerful. And that has to be taught. What's interesting is nobody teaches it. Okay, nobody. There used to be the grassroots fundraising conference gift. That's gone and went bankrupt. Right? I think they're trying to revive it, is what I've heard, which is wonderful. But that, and again, it costs money to send people to a conference. You have to know about it. The organizations I've been reaching out to, it's almost members, 59 members now. None of them have ever had access to fundraising, training, professional development. It's an alien concept. So we actually have the trouble now to teach them, hey, come to a class. This is part of your membership. Your membership is $100 a year. Join. And it's a new idea that, wait, this isn't some scam, some business. These people just want to help. And so this is something we got to get over. But teaching the kind of fundraising, there's nobody to teach it out there except expensive consultants, which they can afford. And even if they could afford it, there's ignorance about the investment of, you've got to spend this amount of money to make this amount of money, which is in all nonprofits, but accentuated with, Latinos have a culture of survival and subsistence, that we don't have a culture of entrepreneurial growth as much as we should. We have this a culture right now of, okay, we made budget, thank God. Not, hey, let's think about next year. I want another $1 million in the bank account. We don't. That's kind of been beaten into us by, you know, harsh economic realities. And so I'm trying to shatter that, you know, which is crazy. I know. Pavel's helping me, so we'll do it.
We got it. We got it. We got it.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, truly trying to hire a not white professional fundraiser with 5 to 7 years of experience is really hard. It's really, really hard, which is why programs like yours are so important because
Yeah.
well, and it's and this is part of why our partnership is so important. It's not enough to say, well, no one applied, so we can't hire someone who doesn't apply. Like, that's not enough.
Yeah.
So if you're maintaining that statement, well, I can't hire someone who doesn't exist, I can't hire someone who doesn't apply, you're perpetuating the issue. And so we all need to look at ourselves and say, what can I do
Yeah.
to change this situation?
Yeah. I mean, I do searches myself and help people hire diverse development officers. The problem is most search consultants don't do real research and they're not networked. Just like anybody, they know who they know in their circles, and their job is to really expand. We have a LinkedIn group I started about 4 years ago, which are Latino fundraisers. There's about 250 people in that. And there's 4 consultants in it who are like, whoa, I want to be in this. Out of all the search consultants in the country, there's 4. So there's a few who got the message. Visionality has been wonderful in being the first financial sponsor of La Vanguardia and helping us bring people in the door. So there is a few more extra people from the Central Coast because you guys. So that's super groovy, as I like to say. But having Latinx trained fundraisers in a cohort, in a pipeline is super important. Supporting those out there right now who are not getting training. Professional development in fundraising is a luxury, unfortunately. You go to these conferences in AFP and like 60–70% of the people attending are universities and hospitals, big museums, who have the budgets, and it's the rich getting richer, the poor staying poor. You know, 90% of nonprofits have budgets under $5 million for a reason. Okay, 72% have never had a major giving program of nonprofits in the country. So there's this huge, you know, the Harvards, Stanfords shoveling in the money because they invest in fundraising, and the rest of the nonprofit world that's a waste of money. I don't want to hire a development officer. I'll write a grant. So we got to shatter that reality and wake them up. I always say nonprofit leaders are like a fish that hates swimming, you know? So it's like, guess what, kids? I have a whole bunch of fishing analogies coming.
Well, and
I don't fish either, which is weird. I cook them.
So we as an industry need to invest in this change. So talk to me about how the work that you're doing now will pay dividends in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah. So Somos El Poder is the first Latinx fundraising institute. And yes, it's designed for 2 purposes: to help Latinx focused nonprofits raise more money. So if your institution is 51% Latino serving or more, you can join. Your whole organization can join. And you know, if you're a white ally and you're a development officer there, come on down. We can have you join. The main idea is to raise more money for your institution with an emphasis on raising money from Latinos. So, and that's all kinds of fundraising. Secondly is Latino fundraising professionals wherever you work. You're welcome to join. Membership is ridiculously inexpensive on purpose. I said it that way because when I first talked to Latino nonprofits, before I could explain to them what I was doing, the first words out of their mouth was, "We can't afford it." Mm-hmm. So I'm like, "Well, membership for your whole organization for a year is $100. They're like, "What? We can't afford it." What? Okay. Oh, all right. And, you know, and that's for crazy services. I made it so good, you gotta buy it. That's why I'm done it. Because if I did it, but sort of the fee for service AFP model, where our our services will be paid for by your expensive fees, I would have 0 members right now, maybe 2, because people won't pay for that because they don't know the value of it yet. So the idea of the long range model is not only that they'll raise more money, but that they'll gain more confidence. Something happens when people raise more money on their own. It's different than a foundation grant. This is what I've been trying to get foundations to figure out, is that you can, again, fish, keep giving us fish or teach us to fish and give us a fishing boat. It's powerful. I've seen Latinos change when they're able to do effective fundraising and sustain their organizations. It creates confidence and self-reliance. And that's, for the racial justice and equity movement, that's the essential thing you need to have happen. The essential is to have 59 million Latinx in the country wake up and find their own power. Okay, there's nothing more powerful. All the foundation grants in the country cannot do that. So for me, the number one thing we need to do is wake people up to identify their own power, their own strength. Like the women in MUA, they're not going to be abused domestically or have wage theft as being maids anymore. They found their own freaking power and they're organized and they're supporting each other financially. So take that and extrapolate it. And fundraising is literally the number one piece missing in the racial justice and equity movement in the country today. It cannot be sustained by foundations. Okay, it cannot, because they don't give enough money. I've estimated Latinos in the U.S. can give $24.7 billion a year. Okay?
Say that number again, my friend.
$24.7 billion a year. Foundations give Latino-focused organizations almost $500 million a year. So where should we be investing our time? In getting those people to give more or getting foundations to give more? It's a no freaking brainer. So even if Somos barely succeeds and we get $2 billion in Latino giving to happen, that's going to be game changing for this country, game changing. And also just generations of young people realizing, I'm a fundraiser, I'm going to raise millions from our nonprofit, whatever it's for. If it's for immigrants, it's for women's rights, for LGBTQ rights, whatever we're doing, education. If we're funding it well, you know the difference in a nonprofit. When you're well funded, you're making a difference. If you're not, it's just hopes and dreams. Okay, so funding is the missing piece in all of this, and nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about fundraising is the essential piece in the racial justice equity movement in the country. It is quiet. I'm the only lunatic. Google it, you'll see. No one's talking about this subject.
So
Emily, I'm talking too much.
Just to sum, I think, this up in like a one sentence quotable, what I heard you say is that the impact of the work that you're doing right now is self-reliance. In 5 to 10 years, by doing this, by investing here, what we will gain is self-reliance, which is like, I just got goosebumps. Like that's it, right? That's the whole.
It's the whole mood and concept. If you Google African American Black self-reliance, there's articles, there's books, there's TED Talks. If you Google Latinx, Hispanic, Latino, whatever you want to do, self-reliance, no hay nada. There's nothing. Right? Why? Because we don't talk about it that way. We talk about survival. We talk about subsistence. And I'm saying, we have our own power. We have tremendous power in this country. And the way this country is looking right now, we need to vote and save this country. And so it's literally a massive moral imperative. And so that's why there's a lot more than fundraising and nonprofits in this movement. Okay, it's helping everybody, not just brown people, everybody have a better country.
Mm-hmm. I love it. We've reached our 25 minutes. It felt like 5. So
man, we didn't get any questions either.
We'll get to them. So everyone, put your questions in the chat. Raise your hand if you want to come on camera and share some questions, comments, feedback, lived experiences, successes. And I want to kick it off while people get busy with their fingers. I want you to talk to me about the value of Native bilingual individuals in the nonprofit space, and the value of that and the undervaluing of that, these individuals who have grown up natively speaking both English and Spanish.
It's massive. I mean, you need to
Massive.
understand that you need to understand the community. 42% of Californians are Spanish Latinos, and good luck finding senior development and leadership in the state. There's more now than when I started. I mean, I've been a fundraiser for 36 years. So back in the old days, there were 4 Latinos above vice president in the USA in fundraising. I was one of them at one point. I mean, I'm currently a CPO, but it's missing in so many ways. So if you're in Oxnard and you have no Latinos in your board or fundraising team, you're walking by half the population. I don't know. Can you imagine if fundraisers, we said, you know what, we're not going to fundraise in LA or Chicago or New York, okay? And that's 24 million working Latinos. You just did that. It's stupid. Even if you're the most crass person, you don't care about racial justice, it's still stupid because we have money. Turn on the Toyota or the Honda or the Pepsi commercial, and that's a Mexican family, okay? Because they know who's buying stuff, right? And so, but nonprofits don't. Nope.
Nope. Christiana posed a great question. Do you think that foundations don't take these small Latinx organizations seriously because they aren't, quote unquote, organized in the same way as legacy white organizations?
Well, first of all, they don't know about them at all, generally. Those organizations generally send in blind proposals that don't have highly paid development officers like me who go see a program officer, which is hard to do, and have a relationship with them. They'll send a blind proposal across their fingers. Guess who wins? Not to be nice to the program officers often don't look hard and do their research and get out there for whatever reason. They don't know the community. There is no association of Latino nonprofits. There's no there. So it is challenging, but that's your freaking job. Do it. If you're going to fund racial justice, why are there no Latinos being funded by your grants? Okay, ask yourself. And you're in Chicago. I see this all in Texas. You can see Latino. Great example of this. And not to knock our African American sisters and brothers, bless them for doing this. And they're more organized and louder than we are. And you can look at community foundations all over the country, and there will be Black-focused, Black-led funds in them. And there's 2 Latino ones in the whole country. One's dormant and one's trying to come to life in the whole country. So the focus has been, has missed that altogether. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No sorries. A follow-up question. Do you think white fundraisers would benefit from the academy? And I'm going to tweak that to say how. Of course, that we're all going to benefit. So talk to me about how white fundraisers benefit from the work that you're doing.
Well, the LaGuardia Academy is for Latinx folks. That's who it's for. You can join as a white fundraiser if you work for a Latino organization and join the institute and go to classes, get mentoring all the time. We welcome any color ally whatsoever. But the academy itself is just for our things, we like to say. So that's that's how that works.
Yeah. Well, and just speaking even from like a leadership or a business owner's perspective, when we have diverse backgrounds and perspectives and lived experiences around the table, we are all better. And so philanthropy and fundraising and fund development and boards and individual organizations will be better when we have diversity at the table.
Yeah, it's just I worked for a major organization in health many years ago, and health care and everything. And we had statewide, we had no Latinos like active on the board. And so the ignorance of the whole community, 40% of the population was massive. People started asking me the most naive questions about Latinos and health. One, I'm not an expert in health, but why? I mean, this is crazy, And so that's classic. There needs to be program. It's like if you're going to institute program, you better understand that community. And also too, people want to fundraise amongst Latinos, you should be able to show you're in the community doing things. Okay. People should know, hey, I know that organization. And unfortunately, St. Jude is a hospital in Tennessee that 99% of these people will never use. But they've had so much PR, people feel like they know it. And it's like they have a little kid who speaks Spanish, with going through cancer treatment. That's all they need. That's all they need. So they know. But the local children's hospital here in Oakland, do they fundraise from Latinos who literally save the lives of their children? Nope.
Nope.
They just walk by them. There's no campaign in Spanish, the parental campaign. They make millions in this town doing that because there's a lot of love for them. But if you have an organization that comes from the outside that wants to raise money from Latinos, that's tougher because you're not known, you're not a value. Just like anybody, you would ask for money. I can't ask Emily for helping the Yamas in Tibet because that's not her cause. She doesn't know about that. She doesn't care about that. Don't be so. People have tried to raise money from Latinos and thrown up their hands, like that fellow I told you about originally, because you're asking for money. They don't even know what you're talking about.
Right.
So don't be surprised when they don't give you money. It's not, just treat us like you would treat every other prospect.
Yeah. Meredith has a great question. How can I, as a white person, be an ally for people of color in fundraising? And I'm not a manager or a supervisor.
Well, you can speak up. But when you see the population being missed, when you see your efforts, whatever you're fundraising on, it's not including Latinos, ask why. And you'll get stunning answers too. I have a wife, she calls herself the whitest woman alive. She's been in the room where people were saying things about our population, and she goes, yeah, that's not factually true actually. And we should reconsider this. She's down in Texas, major gifts fundraiser, challenging their perceptions. And one of our friends just made a $20 million gift out to a Mexican American in Texas, and she brought it into one of these meetings where they're like, "Oh, wait a second, hold on, wait, there are people here who have lots of money," and so she's been fighting that in our court and helping us. And she calls me for tips and stats once in a while. So that's how I know about it. But yeah, help us that way. Help us open up people's minds, and fight with us.
Thank you. So I see Susie is raising her hand, so I'm going to add her in. Susie, welcome. Welcome to the floor.
Hi. Good morning, Armando. Bien, gracias. So I am with Community Action of Ventura County. I am the executive director, going on 3 years. So everything you're saying is like, Catalina, who actually it's a Susana Lopez on there, but Catalina is also on, just moved her to be our community development person because we didn't have a position. We've been working with Visionality. And everything you said kind of really resonates. At some point I started off, entry level. I became a manager right before executive director. I was getting moved or kind of pushed into do fund development. I had no background on fund development. My background was in program. And now as executive director, I am having to be out there. And yes, it makes me nervous to ask for money. But as you're talking about those smaller asks, from community members, my parents are from Oaxaca. I grew up where there was kermeses and you went and attended and you bought food and, and that's how people fundraise, and they would send money to, my parents' pueblo to upkeep things or for whatever. So as you're talking about that, I remember them coming once a year to ask for that money donation to send back, my parents put in their money to send back. So you're right. And my parents, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad worked in agriculture. He was, field worker, but they figured out a way to send back something. So you're right, reaching out to those populations and feeling comfortable in thinking about them, because, I'm also sitting here like, am I thinking about them? Like, am I thinking of asking them, or am I thinking of providing services to them?
So this is a problem with all of our Latino organizations. Your organization is classic. There's literally 1,000 of them across the country. You can go to Dearborn, Michigan, and there's an organization doing almost exactly what you're doing. Surviving on government and foundation grants. Please join the Institute. You guys, please. So when you join, you get 2 classes a month. You get 2 hours of counsel with me or with any of my board members. You get all of our recorded webinar library, okay? And you get first shot at Juntos, which Visionality sponsor. So you can hire a fresh development officer who just got trained, but you're part of a community. Also, there's Juntos is our listserv, which you can write in something, and then somebody from anywhere in the country will write you and say, this is how you do this. I'm an executive director just like you. So we have a comunidad we're forming. So that's important. But it's so important. You have, I mean, Ventura, I know it well. There's so many things you guys could do with giving. And a lot of us are not trained to give and not trained to raise money. Overwhelmingly, executive directors have a fear or disgust with it. And so it's okay. And our job is to train you and to support you to develop whatever fundraising works for your community. Maybe it won't be major giving. You know, maybe you won't be going up to Montecito asking for money. Maybe it'll be something different, some other type. There's I counseled an organization in San Joaquin Valley, one member of ours, they're doing a tamale sale. They raise $100,000 a year for people who hate their mission, who can't resist their tamales. That's pretty awesome. It's, you know, it's like the Latino power. Like, I know I'm a right winger, but I love your tamales. It's $50. Kind of humorous, you know. So there's that. There's, you know, so whatever would work for you guys to broaden your fundraising, strengthen your programs, we'll do. But yeah, I mean, si se puede. I like to say si se puede, but it's also, we're all already doing it now. So it's not like we're gonna, yes, we can. I like to say, yes, we are. So it's different.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias, Susie.
Questions, comments, successes.
Pablo can make fun of me. He knows all my secrets now. Pablo's running La Vanguardia Academy, so he's our head of that. So
Excellent.
if you have any, and also too, Susie, you can enroll your person. You got till Friday. If you want to enroll your person in the academy.
I believe she did. I think she just showed me yesterday that she got in. Catalina, is that right?
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
Catalina.
yes.
Catalina, sorry, Catalina Solis.
Yeah, I just have to do the fill in the survey, but yeah, I'm
Oh,
in.
the survey.
Yes,
She's so
I will.
cool. They named
Today.
an island after her, right? That's
Yeah, right. You know how like you say,
Never heard
yes,
that
we
joke.
are. You know how you said, yes, we are. You know what I
Yeah.
like to say? We are they.
Yeah.
Because everybody says they should do something about it. They, no, we are they. Que no, que sí.
Que sí. Alexandra Cortez, Ocasio-Cortez says, don't wait for hope, be the hope. And so I love that, sister, when she says that. That's awesome. Fantastic, man. That's great. I'm glad to have you guys part of it. Catalina, I'm sorry I made that mistake.
No. I'm misnamed for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, very thanks for all that. We're looking forward to it. Yeah, this is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Cool,
Yep.
cool beans.
Yeah.
Más preguntas, thoughts, you know, comments you guys have. How much more time do we have?
Well, for as long as the questions and comments and feedback last. So last chance to raise your hand if you want to come on camera and have a conversation, put a question or comment in the chat. And Armando, I can't tell you how excited I am about La Vanguardia and the work that you're doing. And I'm so excited to, just to have this conversation again and just,
Yeah, Llewellyn's raising her hand.
Oh, Llewellyn, I'm sorry. Here she is.
I saw her. Hey, Llewellyn.
Hi, Armando. Thank you so much for being here. I just want to say thank you. We're so happy and excited about this partnership. And one of the things that's just front in my mind right now about the community where I've grown up in Oxnard is that, you know, if you are out in Oxnard on the weekends, you might see a car wash particularly for raising funds for a funeral. You know this concept, like this is
Sure.
this is a community grassroots fundraising model that exists, and that is the Latinx community like showing up for each other. It's just something that's in my mind, how it's interesting that that, you know, these models exist in ways that like someone who doesn't live in that community would never understand or be able to connect with or tap into.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the question that I wanted to ask was just kind of, as you've been building Vanguardia for the first time, like what has been the most surprising thing for you?
Well, we struggled initially to get people interested because it's never been done. There's no reference people have for this. They do have reference for certificate programs, so I should be fair. But the challenge was getting the word out. I mean, we're getting some major grants, but this is a weird thing to market because there's no place to market it. So we sent it out to college counselors. Pavel's been working the internet, but partnering with local organizations and local firms is probably the way we're going to go in the future and do more of that. We reached out to community foundations, crickets. It's amazing. You know, people don't understand this as much as I thought they would. But I think it's catching fire now. We're probably 29, 30, 31 people in the cohort. So it's sort of got viral eventually. So getting the word out has definitely been the biggest surprise. It was pulling, you know, a heavy sled for a long time. But I hope it creates some momentum. So our next cohort is 50. And so to really affect this nationally, we're going to have to do this for many years to create a standard recognized brand and pipeline. So that an employer looks at a LinkedIn profile and sees the little Vanguardia logo and says, oh yeah, holy hell, let's give that woman an interview. So that's what we need to get to. And that'll be a long hike, you know. And you know, there's so many naysayers in this, you know, it's amazing how many people told me this isn't a good thing to do, a real thing to do. Nobody will show up, nobody will understand it. And we just got to push through and just, you know, I'm an old guy and I have experience. And you know, sometimes when things are right. And I knew right off the bat that this would fly. I didn't know it'd be this hard, but I knew it would fly. So, anywho's it's.
That's the thing about new ideas, right? Everyone tells you you're crazy until the thing you know does work, and then everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I believed in you the whole time. Of course, this was a great idea."
Oh man, I've had that too. With the institute, people have told me, "Oh, we did this." I'm like, "Well, explain to me what you did in the past. It didn't work, and it's never the same thing." People are, you know, like, "Oh, that's wacky. You're teaching grant writing. I'm teaching fundraising."
Fundraising.
So yeah, it's a hysterical. There's so many people who want to talk about fundraising who've never been a fundraiser. So we got to be cautious and consider the source every single darn time. But I mean, Llewellyn, yeah, it's been a hike. I do think over time it'll be our most recognizable program in the institute because people understand. Yeah, I can't find a Latino development officer. Let's create more, and it's about equity. So it's not a hard lift, but getting the program officer, say, you know, at the Kellogg Foundation or whatever foundation, just an example, to turn their head and go, wait a second, look at this. That's hard because they're bombarded with things all the time. And also there's lots of organizations out there saying they have the solution to racial equity and stuff through programming. And to me, it's not about the program, it's about empowering the population. So it's sort of reverse, yeah.
I think that there is great potential for there to be a really incredible alumni group that comes out of the program. And I think that you're right that it's just about building traction this year. And that next year, when people hear about it coming back around, it'll be like, oh yeah, that was interesting last year. I predict you will have great numbers in your year.
You look at the courses, we didn't design I didn't want to have adequate fundraising. I wanted to have the best fundraising set I've ever seen. And I teach at AFP Icon every year. I teach at APRA. I teach at AFP chapters all over the country. I teach at Institute of Fundraising in London. To me, this is more practical, more effective. 12 different classes in the modalities of fundraising, no overviews of theory or BS like that. Hardcore, this is what you're going to do. Here's how to do it step by step. For the people who, are good at learning that way, it should be very impactful. So that's what we're going for, as a higher standard. Unfortunately, because Latinos, just like women, you got to like dance and sing at the same time. You got to go higher than your competitors. You got to show it more, unfortunately, because it's not a fair playing field. And for Latino women even more so. So that's why we're trying to make something so they're supercharged. That's a good model, Pablo. Supercharged.
No, it's awesome. To Llewellyn's point, I mean, this idea is you're right on point. You want to create community, and so successive classes or cohorts would be able to help the next class or just support each other through their respective careers, right? So super excited about that. It's a great lineup. We have great instructors. Thank you, Armando, for teaching more than 2 classes. But we're also going to look at the future of fundraising and teach in a way that's specific to the causes that matter to our students. So I've never seen anything like this. I met Armando years ago, and it's like, oh my gosh, this guy, I want to learn as much as I can. This is like, 15 years ago. And to do this for our community, Cuban heritage, I'm super excited.
Yeah.
So Pablo, I'm going to put you right on the spot, which I normally wouldn't do, but if you work with Armando, I'm sure you're used to, just hopping in with 2 feet, right? So give me the rundown. Give me your 30-second elevator pitch for Vanguardia, and like some of the topics that y'all are going to cover in the 12 sessions. Give it to me.
Yeah, we'll start with the basics and just provide a firm foundation of what fundraising is, and then we'll drill down to specific causes that matter to our population that are current, both to the nonprofits in the group, but also like issues that are rising in society, and figure out how do we tackle them. And then ultimately we'll look at how do we reach our community and engage them in this process. It's you invest in what you've given, and what you donate to, you invest in, and you own it, right? And so how can we share this with our broader community? And last bit about Armando, he's tough and that's great. We don't need a 12-month program that's nice and soft and fun. This will be lots of fun, but it'll be to the point, so you're well equipped. It's more than 30 seconds, but hey, that's the truth.
Yeah, we kept out the 30-mile march of the backpack, so it's called the title is the Vanguard. And that's a military term. And it basically means the people who break through the defenses first. And that's what it's about. It's about, Catalina and her colleagues being the people who find new ways and learn new methods. There's a whole world of Latinx fundraising we haven't developed yet. I talk about the tamale sale jokingly, but that's a methodology. Let's find what appeals to our people. I mean, I know a few tricks. But let's find, obviously, the sick kid thing, it gets to Latinas. You ask a Latina, you ever heard of St. Jude? Oh, yeah, my tia gets to that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the classic response. I talk to rooms of hundreds of people, and everyone does that, right? And so let's create something that's new, our way of fundraising, whatever that's going to be, so.
Love
I'm
it.
not that tough. I'm a nice guy. Come on.
Resilient.
That's the word.
I'm psychopathic on the subject. I'm too old for bullshit. It's just like when I hear people telling me about this, I call them these days. I just say, hey, are you a fundraiser? Pues cállese. Shut up. Shut up. If you've never raised money for a living and put your kids through college on fundraising, shut the hell up. Okay? Well, it's like fundraisers we're too quiet or professional. I have an op-ed called the Silent Service. That's us. We don't speak up. We're always the guys and the women in the background. And people take credit for our work all the time. But we need to speak up and say, you know what? This is not true about fundraising. Mm-hmm. So anyway.
I love it. I want to, before I forget, I want to give a quick shout out to Llewellyn on our team. She saw you speak at AFP and was so impressed, and she had been working within Visionality to create something like this. How can we create a mentorship program, or like how we can't sit on the sidelines and do nothing. So what's the way that we can dig in a measurable, meaningful way to make a difference? And then she saw you speak, and it was like, Emily, we don't have to build it. Someone else built it. We can just support them, and we can just help them do it, and we don't have to do it on our own. And so I'm just like, thank you, Llewellyn, for being such a passionate champion of this and continuing to move the needle forward. I appreciate you. And Armando, thank you for building this so that we don't have to, because we got lots of other stuff to do.
Well, I've done it with lots of other good people, like Pavel and our board. It's 157 years of experience of fundraising on our board, Latinx fundraising. And did Llewellyn tell you she threw a tomato at me when I was speaking? It was awful. I dodged it like that, though.
Well, and she loves the Dodgers, so I bet she has a good arm.
Okay.
Careful with that one.
Never had that happen. I had somebody throw a shoe at me once, but never a tomato.
Oh no.
Long story.
Oh no. Well, I'm gonna close out with a plug to invest in for the need for nonprofits to invest in their infrastructure, right? It's always programs, new programs. And my pitch is for sustainability, you know, like, and you keep using these fishing metaphors. We need to teach organizations how to fish. We need to build resiliency and self-sustainability into organizations, because they can do all the programs they want to when we invest in the infrastructure, and that's fundraising. So sign up. You know, we'll send out the recording of this, and we'll include all the links that you talked about. Thank you for putting that in the chat. So thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for your career's worth of work moving the needle on this, and I'm so excited to watch Catalina go through the program.
All right. We'll be nice to Catalina. We're not going to make her cry. Don't worry, Susan.
We'll take good care of you.
I don't
she
think
won't come back. That class was hard. I hate those people.
That lady's unstoppable. So you've been warned.
She looks, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Gracias.
thank you all so much for being with us today. Look out for that email with all the links. And I just appreciate you so much, Armando and Pavel, and all the work that your organizations are doing.
Gracias por todo. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.